Well, here we are. Fort Mississauga, National Historic Site of Canada. No trespassing, 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. I believe what we're hearing in the distance that way is gunfire from Fort George. I think it's open. Gunfire as in they got cannons, they got muskets. Alright, well, here's this wonderfully reinforced door. Look at that. Oh, there we go. Those nails, they've bent them back. Oh, stepped over a rock. Look at those nails. That's beautiful. He's bent them over. The bolts, they hold them together. That's a strong door. And look at that hinge. What is that, wrought iron? Just cast iron, probably. What's the difference between wrought iron and cast iron? Don't tell me that's just a cannon. We got this. I don't know what this is, but it's got those little funny little gun ports in them. Yeah, that's like non-stop. I don't think it's cannon fire. I think it's musket fire. Crayon. This, I bet, is the what's it called? The ammunition store or whatever. The magazine. This has got to be something like that. I can't quite see in there. Oh, there we go. Because it's like tucked away under dirt. It's got this huge, thick brick. This tiny door. This big brick top. Whatever this is like the bastion in the center. If the keep is lost, then everyone can retreat to here. Cannon and whatnot would probably be put on these little corners. I think this is a star fort. You can see little breathy holes. Yeah, be careful. Climbing on top of it. And there's probably another one over there. 2 magazines. They're somewhat protected from the American side. I think that's the US well over there. There's, I don't know, maybe that's the US over there. But if that's the case, then this would be a good place to put the magazine because it's all the way far back. You've got this huge angled berm. If a cannonball comes flying, it'll just bounce right up and off and out. I guess the same could happen on the other side of the wall, but you always want to keep your ammunition far away from the cannon. In case the ammunition goes up, it won't take out the cannon and the men manning them or something. Now, thankfully, this place wasn't ever really used in an battle. I believe Fort Mississauga was constructed after the war. There's that dreadful golf course. The big thick berm. Look at the size of this thing. That'll stop a cannonball, I reckon. Wonder how long this thing took to construct. I'm out of breath. Oh, you can see some of the boats out in the distance. Yay! Well, they use this for a ramp now, as you can see. I think that is the American side, past those trees. Okay, they're building the walkway all the way down to the ocean side. And there is a path down there, so it makes sense. I'll have to read that. Do I go down there? Yeah. What do you say? You are in poor condition. A fort evolves. Here we go. Fort Mississauga, or the plan of Fort Mississauga, dated 29 July 1814. Okay, so they were planning to build this fort around the end of the war. Now we have Fort Mississauga as of 1852. And we can see they got a bastion or whatever. I don't actually know. I don't know anything about this. I'm just assuming. Bad thing to do. You can see the big tower they have in the center. That was always planned. I think these would indicate that yes, indeed, those are supposed to be like magazines. And the fort that never was. I don't know what they were planning to do. Let's read. If I can catch my breath. The tower. By 1813, the British were planning to build a tower, a small redoubt, to command the entrance of the river at Mississauga Point. Begun in the spring of 1814, this tower rests on the remains of the first capital of Upper Canada, today's Ontario. After the Americans burned the town of Newark in 1813, the British tore down the remaining brick walls and chimneys to provide a foundation. The tower was only 2 feet high in July, when an American force under General Jacob Brown tested the defenses of the fort. Oh, lo, I'm incorrect. Fort Mississauga was here around the time of the War of 1812. General Jacob Brown tested the defenses of the fort stationed here during the fort soldiers stationed here during, oh my god. The tower was only 2 feet high in July when an American force under General Jacob Brown tested the defenses of the fort. Soldiers stationed here during the war lived in log buildings inside the fort walls. The imposing tower before you was completed in 1823, a reinforced platform for a single cannon added in 1838. The present roof protects the historic structure. The tower measures 50 feet by 50 feet, and its walls are 25 feet high. The walls are 8 feet thick at the base and slope slightly up to 7 feet at the parapet. The walls are pierced with small ventilation shafts in the ground floor and windows on the main floor. There's the ground floor ventilation, the main floor windows, and you can see the slope, very gentle crest. You can see it tapers to a point, and then you can see here there's like a newer looking brick in which it kind of flattens out, being the parapet. And the tower is planned as a barrack, an artillery battery, and a place of refuge and last defense under attack. Only a determined enemy with heavy cannon could hope to overpower it. Oh, so I was right about that, I suppose. It's got a lot of concrete covering it, and that's, that makes sense. Over time, this bad boy, well, Jesus Christ, this thing is, when did they finish it? 1823. You're 200 years old. Goodness me. You don't look a day over 70. You probably look better at 70 years old. The plan of Fort Mississauga, dated 29 July 1814. This plan shows the fort just 2 weeks after an American brigade of 3,000 men, commanded by Colonel Moses Porter, advanced against it. Porter withdrew under a long-range cannon fire from the British inside. The tower, gunpowder magazine, barracks, and artillery positions are shown. The hot-shot surfaces were used to heat cannonballs, red hot, to set enemy vessels and fortifications alight. The cannons showed to have a range of up to 1 mile. Goodness. The site of the first lighthouse built on the Great Lakes in 1804 is also indicated. It was demolished and the materials used in the construction of the tower. I don't really see anything for maybe that. No, maybe that. That feels more like just sort of a show of the elevation. Star-shaped earthworks were simple and took little time to build. In 1814, the walls were 20 feet thick to protect the defenders. Soldiers lining the ramparts or walls could destroy an attacking force in the crossfire created by the angles of the star shape. It was difficult to defend, since soldiers had to be stationed at every angle, unlike more common bastion forts, such as Fort George, where the troops only had to defend the projecting bastions locating at the corners of forts. Okay. Yes, I was right about bastions. I was talking to myself that bastions are concentrated elements on the corners of forts. I believe Fort George has a more square-shaped sort of shape. As we can see, good old Fort Mississauga has stars, or it's star-shaped. There's a lot of star-shaped fortresses around Canada. There's one in Quebec, Montreal, I believe, or is it Quebec City? I can't remember because I'm forgetful. And there's one, the famous Citadel in Halifax. I wonder if Fort York is star-shaped. I don't think it is. Okay, there we go. Oh, number 1, rubble from the 1792 Tower of Newark, placed in 18-something. There you go, there's your rubble. July 1914, Americans attacked the tower, which is only 2 feet high. That's how high you were. Oh, you weren't even tall enough for those little ground covers, ground holes. April 1916, the tower is only 9 feet high. That's better. 9 feet's better than no feet. 1823, the tower is substantially complete. That's 4. Goodness me. 1838, the upper battery for artillery is installed. Took you long enough. 1840s, stucco parging is parging? I don't know what parging is applied to the tower to protect the brickwork. Number 6. It's like these little cuts. Can't say I see it. I don't know what they're referring to. That's a shame. You better look into that. World War I soldiers put concrete parging on the tower's exterior. Oh! Maybe that's what they mean. It's like they put an extra layer of bricks on the outside. And then, wait a minute! The concrete is from World War I? That's incredible. I thought that would be like a 1980s project. No. It's peeling off. That is remarkable. It stopped raining. That's good. And there you go. Here's the French, for those who care to read it. Remarkable. Remarkable. I reckon I'll go to that sign, and I'll try to climb up onto the parapet. Parapet? Hold on. Need to check that. Oh, I didn't read this part. Goodness me. Oh my god, I didn't read this. Oh no. This map shows the fort. So, Fort Mississauga in 1852. This map shows the fort after construction had been completed. In the aftermath of the 1837-38 rebellions in Upper Canada and Lower Canada, there was a flurry of military construction in the colonies. The earthworks were now a 40 feet thick and 12 feet high. A V-shaped earthwork called a ravelin protected the main gate. 2 wooden bridges led to the fort. One of these was a drawbridge that could be raised. A double row of spiked logs protected the fort, and the inner row of logs was placed vertically, with the outer row set to the ground at a 45-degree angle, facing the enemy. Over a dozen cannons were placed in the fort. The fort that never was. At the end of the War of 1812, in 1815, it was decided that a permanent fort for 1,000 men would be constructed here to replace Fort George, which was in a very poor condition, and the existing Fort Mississauga. This map shows 2 comparison plans by Lieutenant Colonel Gustavus Nichols, R.E. I don't know what R.E. stands for. And Lieutenant Colonel Dunford, R.E. Probably should look into that. Both calling for new fort 10 times the size of the present one. Some idea of the monumental scale of these proposals had been seen by finding the present tower labeled A on the map. Approved in concept, this could have become one of the largest forts in Canada. The lack of funding, changing imperial priorities, and the development of more powerful weapons meant that no work was ever done. Fort never was. I don't see where A is. I assume it's going to be this fort, or this tower is that tower. You know, that tower is this tower. Okay, and I came here for a word. Revetment, was it? Ramparts. Ramparts, not revetment. That's a different thing, I think. See, my problem here when I came to Niagara on the Lake was, I know there's some windows there. My problem here when I came to Niagara on the Lake was that I completely forgot that there was a bit of a war going on in 1812. So I didn't prepare. At least I assumed, because I'm not very well read on the entirety of like the specifics of this area, Fort George over there somewhere, and the Falls, Queenston Heights, etc., all the way down there. We're in like the northernmost part of that little connection between New York and Ontario, right? So, you know, I forgot that there were war going on here, Niagara on the Lake. I learned about that, you know, when I got here, and then I'm like, oh. And then I was like, oh, is Fort George open? Dunno. Sounds like they're open. And then I found out about this. Fort Mississauga, which is just here. Look at it. Look at it. It's beautiful. It's not like Fort George or Fort York or the Citadel or the fort in Montreal, Quebec City, I can't remember, which is to say that it's not, you know, manned. There aren't a bunch of living historians and other historians and people there to sort of display and discuss and communicate the significance of these forts, the war. But that's it's kind of what I like about this place. It's quiet. You can hear the waves. You can hear the gunfire from the war that's happening yonder. And you get to read these beautiful little signs. And you get to learn about the Battle of Fort George. Hey, well, here we go. Okay, there's Fort George. There's Fort... Oh, of course I forget what the fort's called. I literally looked at it. There's a fort on the American side of the water. It's probably going to tell me here in this little text blurb, but yeah, you can see Fort George, Fort America, another Fort America, another fort over there, a bunch of defenses around Niagara on the Lake, and Fort Mississauga. All right, and here's the lighthouse that were there. Oh no, maybe that's Fort Mississauga. Oh, fiddlesticks. I believe that's Fort Mississauga, and that's just an fort, little defense. A strategic location. You are standing at Mississauga Point, where the Niagara River flows into Lake Ontario. Long ago, the lakes and rivers were military supply and transportation routes, and forts were built to protect them. Oh, I'm gonna stop here and just restart. I got a text from my sister. Back again. Just carry on where I left off. The large stone fort across the river is Fort Niagara. The French built a fort here in 1687, and the present one was begun in 1720. In August 1759, the British captured the fort after a lengthy siege. Prideaux and Johnson Streets in Niagara on the Lake are named after the two successful commanders. In 1796, Fort Niagara was turned over to the United States by the terms of Jay's Treaty. The Niagara River now marked by the boundary between the British colony and the United States, and cannons from the American fort easily commanded the mouth of the river. You are standing within range of those cannons from long ago. Oh joy. I'll just pause here to note that it is incredibly foggy. I'd love to try to get a look over to the fort over there, if it's still there. Hopefully it is. I know the Americans love to keep their little pieces of history. That would be cool. I would love to see just how quickly I could get my head blown off by a unknown weight of shot. As early as 1790, Mississauga Point had been identified as the location for a fort. Plans for a battery of 14 cannons to oppose Fort Niagara date from 1799. Instead, the first lighthouse on the Great Lakes was built here in 1804, and Fort George was built further upstream. Ah yes, the Battle of Fort George. Some of the fiercest fighting of the War of 1812 occurred during the Battle of Fort George in May of 1813. The British and Canadians, together with Aboriginal peoples, I guess that kind of dates how old this thing is. We don't use Aboriginal anymore. Anyway, small side. The British and Canadians, together with Aboriginal peoples allied with them, fought to oppose an American landing on Lake Ontario. Fearing that the lighthouse might be filled with explosives, the Americans landed near 2 Mile Creek, several miles to the west. An artillery battery, manned by Canadian militia, was located near this spot during the battle. It was overwhelmed by cannon fire from the 2 U.S. vessels, USS Julia and USS Growler, at point-blank range. I believe this would be USS Julia and Growler, and this is the fort in question, or at least the little fortified position. An artillery manned. Yeah, that's the artillery manned position. And there's the lighthouse that they thought was full of explosives and why they landed over there. After the battle, the defeated British withdrew to a fortified position at Burlington Heights, and the Americans gained base on the Niagara Peninsula. Checked at the battles of Stony Creek and Beaver Dams, the Americans were unable to take advantage of the victory, and U.S. forces were pinned down in Newark, which they burned and abandoned on 10 December 1813. Wow! I say wow because today is 27 December 2023. My math will not be correct, but I believe that's nearly 190 years ago? 290 years ago? 210 years ago? Oh god. I should just take the second to think about that, but essentially, you know, the anniversary passed for the next number of decades. That much is true. That's remarkable. So this is where the lighthouse were, and oh, that's a warm breeze. Oh, it's because there's no wind. The walls are so high that there's like little to no wind blowing through. Oh, this is dangerous. Little stonework here. Maybe that's been covered by the dirt after all these years. Oh, hey. Well, I'll just point out there's a lot of boats on the sea. You'll love to see it. And wouldn't you look, or wouldn't you know? Do you recognize the faces in that photo? It looks like a fort. I actually can't really see much. I saw the big stone, the stone face, and I was like, ooh, it's the fort. Now I'm actually kind of unsure. Just because I can't see well. I should have brought my binoculars. Regardless, over about that way is where the American fort was. Right on the mouth of the Niagara River. This is what the side of the fort looks like, towards the water. Covered in weeds and whatnot, but they are trying to apparently build a little whatchamacallit walkway, I think. They have done work also, as some of the signs read, to try to shore up erosion. Obviously, erosion will erode dirt. And, you know, this is a historic site right on a golf course, so they want to just protect it, give it a little bit longevity. And they did a good job. These are some serious stones. Yeah, no. Geez, I'd feel safe behind these walls if I were getting shot at. Apparently, the tower itself may be entered, as some folks just left it. So, by my reckoning, clean up after yourselves. The O-Ban. I'll return it to them. Well, here we are at a gate. Something going on there. I think it's an entrance or an exit. Way in, way out. I'm speaking quietly now because there's a couple. But we'll speak openly. We're historians. Well, let's see if I can zoom out a bit, get the whole thing in there. I was wrong, or at least I was fooled by that very couple that were walking oot in a boot. Here's the walkway, the entrance. Because this is an arch, I just barely fit. Let's see if I can take a peek in there. Oh. There you go. Staircase. Stable? No. I haven't a clue what's going on in there. Well, this is locked, so I can't get in. It's cold in there. I'm sorry. Beautiful little arch. You can see at the end the firing hole. How it's angled outwards, so that you can shoot a musket in several angles. It's a narrow slit, but it gives you a lot of direction because there's room on the inside. It does make it a weak point. Yeah, that's cool. And here we are again to the second of two magazines. Zoom out a bit. Built in the exact same way. Probably had some powder kegs. The rain is starting to pick up again. I'll have to zip up my jacket, but I wanted to point out, I didn't notice this walking in. There's a whole extra part of the defense. Of course, now I have to try to remember what the thing said. If I am correct, which I probably am not, this was a little extension built. No, 1838, they put the cannon on the roof. This was a part of the fortification that came a bit later. Just like I think this would be one of them. There are bastions. It's cold up here on the rampart. That's cool. I didn't even notice it walking in, because all these, I guess they would have lined this with all the spiky logs to defend the fort. You can see it's kind of inlet in the ground. They moved all the dirt down here, they moved it up to here. Obviously now, as time goes on, this gets eroded. But beautiful commanding presence of this golf course and the oceans where, geez, it's kind of crazy to think. Like, I cannot picture it in my mind, but like 200 or so years ago, back in 1813, two ships, USS Growler and Juliet, was it? Were shooting their cannons off to a little militia battery out here. Very cool. I hope those militia guys are alright. Well, they're not now, but I hope they were back then. Time to brave this steep cliff. This is remarkable. Looking at the construction of this building, I just around the corners, this is just construction stuff, you know. They only used really the sides of the brick, or the short side. Obviously flat side on the outside, but yeah, I thought this was cool. Look at that. It's all slowly chipping away. I could take a piece of it, but that's just improper. That's, you know. That wood. Oh, that makes sense. Try to keep it plugged up. Huh. Bit of concrete. That concrete was poured during World War I. Now look at it, it's all washed away. They should reinstall that, at least on one side of it. Because I think that would be cool. Kind of like show, oh, on this part of the wall, back in World War I. Oh, I guess, you know, there's just pieces here and there already, so you could be like, hey kids, did you know this concrete here was, let me go widescreen. Did you know this concrete here was made during World War I to protect the side of the walls from the weather? No, I sure didn't. Thank you for teaching me. Oh, you're very welcome, son. You can't see much. It's got lights on the side. Yeah, that roof wasn't there. It would have just been that lip, that brick lip, for the longest time. I think they put that roof on the 1850s, was it? I should go back to that sign. I don't want to, because I've been there already. I'd love to learn about the construction itself, like more in depth. I say that, but I probably wouldn't, because I'm a sludgy kind of man. Put this. I'm not gonna keep it. I just want to hold it. Do you reckon that's part of the wall? 100-year-old concrete or cement? That is remarkable. Beautiful. It's really cool. I like that. You take care, piece of cement. Protect lots of bugs and all that jazz. As we leave, again, I want to draw your eyes towards this. I have a question. Is that a cannon barrel? Is that 2 cannon barrels? They look plugged up. Is that the ass end of a cannon? Because it's got the little powder touch. Or no, maybe that's the spike for the aiming of the cannon. If so, that's really cool. It doesn't say anything. At least I can't see if it says anything. Maybe it isn't. Maybe it's just nothing, but regardless, that's cool. Look at that. The the wood's rotted. Probably replace that, but it'd be a very difficult job. They just hammered in nails, 4 of them. 8 of them in total. That's a bit dangerous, I think. It's nice that they have the little gardening holes to keep these forever open. But if anything, I think that'd be cool if they just replaced that and fixed it. Oh, you can see on the outside. They hammered it in, screwed it on. That's impressive. Those doors must weigh a ton. Like an actual ton. Short ton, not a long ton. Oh, that's Fort Mississauga. Now I have the burps from dinner. That is way cool. Thank you. I hope to come again. Oh, Jesus Christ. Addendum. Maybe it's just the way sound travels, but Fort George is in that way, and as my ears hear it, the quote unquote gunfire is coming from that way. Okay, that was a cannon. You can't, that was the cannon. Oh, boom. It's cannon with no shot. I bet they're doing something. Oh well, I'm walking to Fort George now. It's literally just down the road. But I am absolutely wet. I should have brought an umbrella. So I'm starting to get cold. I'm probably gonna get hypothermia. What fun. George Kirby, poet, novelist, historian, and renowned person for it. That were his house. Note it down. And if you'd look over there, just across the river, we see the smallest, most cutest little animal, and also the United States. Wave hello to the United States. Hello, United States. It's kind of remarkable, I guess, that, you know, just over there is the United States. Like, they literally fought a war with us not long ago. They had ships out in the lake shooting guns, gunships. And now look at us. They're just hanging out there. They have a fort there. It's unmanned. Probably got a bunch of historians in it. We have a fort over there. It's derelict. It's just a bunch of dirt. Oh, and the original tower, which is remarkable and also very cool. And we have Fort George just up the way, which I'm walking to now. There's the Canadian flag. There, all the way over there, if I can focus, is an American flag. We used to be enemies. Now we're lovers. This is a very beautiful park. It's nice up there. There's a big memorial or something. You know what I just realized? See that dip right there? In the painting over at Fort Mississauga, on the second sign, they depicted in front of Niagara on the lake a small fortress-like structure. Now, I'm pretty sure that was Fort Mississauga that we were just at, because mainly the, as they pointed out, Fort Mississauga was built on the original lighthouse. But, I found myself in a precarious position as I was rambling. There, at least emotionally, felt like there was some fortressing up here. And this is an awfully big berm. Well, it appears I'm wrong, but we'll just read what the sign says. Presented to Niagara-on-the-Lake by the Caldwell Foundation. That has unknown meaning to me. That's modern. Yeah. I want to point this out. I could have just walked up there and then used the stairs. Maybe I did. Maybe I just forgot. Goodness, I'm getting a workout. Now, especially in the winter, beaches are dangerous. But I want to look at this beach, so I'm going to it. I will just take extra care. There's people over there. I'm putting the phone away. And what a beautiful beach it is. So, previously, when I was at Fort Mississauga, I discussed the fact that I thought that this was the American fort. Fort Niagara, I believe. As we can see now, the silhouette of a cannon, that is indeed Fort Niagara. Well, the American fort, which may be Fort Niagara. And, oh, I took my glasses off, pardon me. And it has cannon on it. That's really all I wanted to point it out. Oh, sorry. I cannot see, my glasses are all fogged up now. I'm so warm. But yeah, no. Pretty cool. Don't shoot me, haha. Damn this weather, sir. Wet powder makes misfires. Well, here I am at Fort George. A little bit of a hop, skip, and a jump to get here. Siren blaring. Gunfire yonder. I shrug my shoulders, ignorant, and see what my fate shall be. In the meantime, we have this beautiful Upper Canada Preserved sign by the Niagara Historical Society Museum, the Friends of Fort George, as well as Parks Canada. Upper Canada Preserved, dedicated to those who made the ultimate sacrifice defending Upper Canada at the Battle of Fort George, killed in action, or perished of their wounds soon thereafter on 27 May 1813. Six Nations, Mohawks, Joseph Claus, Tsigotia, I apologize if I pronounced that, or mispronounced that, Royal Regiment of Artillery, 4th Battalion, Gunner, Edward Mulhoran, 8th King's Regiment of Foot, 1st Battalion, Lieutenant James Drummy, Lieutenant Thomas Waring Lloyd, Ensign Richard Nicholson, Armourer Sergeant David Bly, Corporal Henry Miller, Corporal Hugh Moore, Corporal John Neville, Corporal Thomas Thornley, Drummer James Cook, Private Arthur Atkinson, Private Joseph Bradley, Private Robert Buchanan, Private Samuel Bush, Private George Carr, Private James Creighton, Private James Francis, Private Joseph Gaddis, Private Obadiah Hartford, Private Michael Hughes, Private Edward King, Private Robert Curtin, Private Charles Lowe, Private Patrick McInerney, Private John McGuire, Private Hugh McKee, Private William McQueenie, Private Richard Pearson, and Private Nicholas Smith. 49th Regiment of Foot, Corporal James Efford, the Royal Newfoundland, is it Newfoundland? I always get that wrong, I apologize. Royal Newfoundland Fencible Infantry Regiment. Corporal Archibald McLaren, Private John Anglin, Private Joseph Bragg, Private Pat Dermody, Private John England, Private Pat Hagan, Private Lawrence Kavanagh, Private Patrick Larimore, Private Charles Maybury, Private John Mooney, Private Josiah Mortimer, Private James Rocks, Private James Truesdale, Glengarry Fencible Light Infantry Regiment. Corporal Andrew Little, Ensign William McLean, Corporal James Hazard, Private Henry Cato, Private Nathan Perkins, Private Stephen Prey, Private Matthew Thompson, Private Jean Tornell, Private Martin Wallace, Private Martin Walley, I apologize. 1st Regiment of Lincoln Militia, Captain Martin McClellan, Corporal George William Law, Private Richard Collard, Private Caleb Cudney, Private George Grass. 1st Lincoln Artillery Company, Gunner William Cameron, Gunner Charles Wright. British Indian Department, Lieutenant William Johnson Chew. The gunfire hasn't stopped, but the horns haven't blared again. The gunfire, which was once distant and now is not. Maybe I'll go around. Fort George, constructed by order of Lieutenant Governor Simcoe, 1796 to 99. Fort George served as the headquarters for Major General Brock in 1812. In May 1813, it was bombarded and captured by the Americans, who constructed fortifications of their own on this site. These, in turn, were retaken by the British in December 1813. In 1815, Fort George was described as tumbling into ruins and ordered abandoned. The present works are a reconstruction done in 1937 to 40 and represent the fort as it was in 1799 to 1813. Only the magazine of the original fort remains. And there's the French for you, because I don't speak French. I ought to learn. Historic Sites and Monuments Board of Canada, Government of Canada, 1930. Remarkable. There's a sign over there. We gotta read the signs. The gunfire, while intriguing, must wait as I read through all the signs. And, with a heavy heart, I must feel the regret of not hurrying to the sound of the gun sooner. And what do we say here? Welcome, bienvenue. Hours of operation. April 1st to May 19th, 2023. Open from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Saturdays and Sundays. May 20th to September the 4th, 2023. Open from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday to Sunday. September 6th to October 31st, 2023. Open from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Wednesday to Sunday. Ticket sales end at 4:15. Now, I simply must go to the gun. March to the sound of the guns. Who said that? I forget who. It was one of Napoleon's generals in the film Waterloo. What, you expect me to remember everything? Remember your own damn quotes. I jest. Here we have a naval cannon and some cannonballs next to it. Let's see. What do you reckon? Oh, it says 12-pounder. Jesus. You're a 12-pounder? What, are you supposed to take a lot more shot than you think? Here's the rope hole to keep it attached to the side of the ship better. 16112. You mean to tell me that you were created in 1912? Or 1812? Not 1912. Here's a crest. I don't know whose. Cannonballs. I assume them to be reproductions. The end of the gun. I can't. Someone has filled the gun with a cannonball, and they have not rammed it all the way down. I would take more of a look at the gun, but the gunfire is so close now, and so the percussion is being felt. I want to take a better look. I may even run. No, I think I'll just walk very fast. There's 2 more cannon lining the front of the entrance to Fort George. I'll turn back and head to Fort George a little later. But now there's a car coming, so. Maybe there's another fort down that way. I am saddened to discover, after exiting from the front of Fort George, the gunfire is much further than I thought. If that is gunfire. So, indeed, with a heavy heart, as I previously mentioned, I will now carry forward, unable to investigate the true source of the noise, that which has intrigued me all this morning. But, at the very least, we get to now take a look at Fort George itself, at least from the outside, because the park itself is closed for the season, and there is no way in. Not without a ticket. That was close. Closer. It sounds like musket fire. Musket and cannon. Maybe there's a reenactment going on. I'd love to climb this fanciful redoubt. The sound of the gunfire is almost teasing me here. I'm gonna look up if there's another fort in that direction or something. But here we are, beautiful Fort George. A lot of bird poop on this little wall that I put myself on. I've been here once, long ago. I barely remember that main building, the blue one, next to the blue one to the left. Well, I guess it's 3 buildings. No, that was Fort York that I remember that story. It's been a while since I've been at Fort George. Beautiful little, you can see the bastions that make up the corners, and the very seemingly flimsy little wooden wall part of the fort is based on. So you can see the American side way in the distance, cannon pointing towards them. Yeah, no, I don't really know what to say other than what we've all read previously. Beautiful Fort George, rebuilt in 1930 or 1940, or whenever that was. I forget what those buildings are called, but Atun Shea made a video on them. And I mean, like, I knew what they were prior to the Atun Shea video, but you know, I always love them talking about things that I already know about, because then I get to learn about it several times over. I love those things. You can defend yourself, or there's no good way to attack it. You're always vulnerable from every angle, from below, from above, etc. Beautiful. Well, with my my jacket completely saturated with water, and the insulative properties of my fleece underneath starting to become, I lost the word, kaput, I think I shall head home so that I can, depending on the time, rest, relax, and go for a swim. This has been our Rama Walks. Toodaloo. So, context. The sounds of gunfire is over there. I've decided to walk this way because it actually takes me back to my hotel. I recognize that building there. I just crossed this seemingly unremarkable bridge. It is, as you see, an bridge. And I stopped by this sign, by the Niagara Historic Sites, or Niagara National Historic Sites, Parks Canada. In their footsteps, when you cross this bridge, you are walking on one of the oldest bridges in Niagara-on-the-Lake. The bridge has already outlived most, if not all, of the skilled young men who built it. Some of these soldiers joined the Canadian Expeditionary Force in the First World War, 1914 to 18, and were wounded or killed in the line of duty. These men were also the proud members of the Royal Canadian Engineers, officially formed as a professional military branch in 1903. The RCE was part of a long line of professional military builders, engineers, and draftsmen. Their contributions can still be felt in many of the buildings, the street planning, and even the Board of Ordnance markers that identify original key boundaries of Niagara-on-the-Lake. This building, this bridge was built by the RCE around 100 plus years ago. And it's used by many, like me, like this funny little caterpillar, and by people who just throw their dog poop away. That's regrettable. That's remarkable. Like, it's so simple. It's just a little nice concrete bridge. It's got cracks in it, you know, it's been some time. But, like, this is an engineering feat. This is a significant piece of history. Something so simple. So unremarkable. Seemingly unremarkable. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just easily fascinated by the fact that this bridge is nearly 100 years old. I don't know, like, in what way me standing here can make me sort of feel like that, but that's just kind of cool. Just kind of cool. I like that. And you don't even know, bud. Oh well. The fact that you're here, chilling out, you know, walking, looking as beautiful as you are, to me that means something. I love you, Pally. You're adorable. It's a carronade. I've never seen one before. It's remarkable. I know I've been quiet, but I just wanted to point this out. Earlier, I think that's the bridge that I was walking down. And then I came all this way because we're approximately here looking down the parade ground. And this bridge was the one built all the way back before the war, was it? During the war, the first? And this was that copse of trees I was on about, at least to myself. Now it is a full thing of trees. It's as if, or it's as these trees are now. It's very cool to be here.